Part 1. The Hour That Vanished. Hello, learner. Settle in. A small mystery is about to tug at your sleeve. At precisely 7 a.m., a boy named Nico opened his eyes and discovered an hour had gone missing. The alarm insisted it was 8. The sun, low and guilty, pretended otherwise. And on his fog window, someone or something had traced a fingertip message. You're spending what you don't have. Nico lived in Rivervale, a quaint town stitched together by cobblestone lanes and the slow silver thread of a canal. He loved pillows, soft excuses, and the endless tomorrow that only existed in his imagination. Homework waited, chores waited, dreams waited so patiently they began to look like furniture. When his mother knocked, he answered with a favorite phrase of the lazy, "In a minute." In Rivervale, minutes were coins of light. In Nico's room, they were crumbs. On this strange morning, minutes turned slippery. His toothbrush felt heavier than usual, as if time itself clung to the bristles. The kettle boiled, cooled, and boiled again, all before he decided which mug to use. He put on one sock, stared at the other, and somehow 10 more minutes disappeared. When Nico finally shuffled outside, he noticed townspeople tapping their watches, frowning at the sky. The clock above the bakery skipped from 9:30 to 9:32, while the baker blinked. A hush moved through the street, like a rumor. At the corner where the canal bent toward the market, a narrow shop crouched between two taller buildings. Its sign read, Elon, Watchmaker and Repairs. The door chimes sounded like a bird clearing its throat. Inside, the air smelled of brass and old wood, and the walls glittered with clocks that disagreed with one another in dozens of elegant ways. Behind the counter stood a thin, silver-bearded man with eyes like polished river stones. He watched Nico the way a doctor watches a pulse. "You're late," the man said, although Nico had never seen him before. "For what?" Nico asked. "For understanding." The watchmaker lifted a delicate hourglass. It looked ordinary except for one detail. The top bulb held only a few pale grains, trembling near the lip, as if a breath could blow them away. "This belongs to you." "I didn't buy it," Nico protested. "Time is always delivered, never purchased," Elon replied. "And lately you keep dropping the package." He tilted the hourglass. No sand fell. "Tell me, when did you first notice the missing hour?" Nico swallowed. The bakery clock, the window message, the sluggish morning. They all crowded his thoughts. "Today," he admitted, "but it feels like it started long ago." Elon nodded. "Laziness is not a monster. It is a fog. One day you wake and discover the river is gone, though you were standing on its bank the whole time." He set the hourglass beneath a lamp. The light slid through the glass and framed Nico's reflection in a narrow oval. "Rivervale is losing minutes. You are the leak." "The leak?" Nico laughed, a thin sound. "I'm just slow." "Slow can be careful," Elon said softly. "You are careless. You waste time as if it were spare air." He reached under the counter and drew out a pocket watch, its case engraved with a map of constellations. When he pressed a crown, the lid sprang open and a warm, steady ticking filled the room. "Take this. Wear for 1 week. Do exactly what it asks." "What if I don't?" "Then the town will keep paying for your delay." Elon slid the watch across the counter. The second hand glowed faintly, not white, but a living, pulsing gold. "It will measure every choice. When you choose to wait, it will not." Nico hesitated. Outside, a bicycle bell rang twice and then, strangely, no sound followed, as if the street had been briefly muted. He touched the watch. The metal felt like sunlight. "What will it ask me to do?" he whispered. "It will ask you to begin," Elon said. And that is the part people fear most. Shame warmed Nico's cheeks. He remembered the homework he had promised to finish last week, the friend he had promised to meet yesterday, the promise he had made himself last year. Begin. The word struck like a small, clear bell in his chest. He slipped the chain over his neck. The watch settled against his heartbeat. Instantly, the clocks in the shop synchronized. The room exhaled. Elon's eyes softened, but his voice remained stern. "Understand this," he said. "Every moment is a door, some open only once." The golden second hand leaped forward, as if eager to prove the math of consequences. "Now, Nico," the watchmaker said, "what will you do with the next minute?" Part 2. The meeting that changed everything. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and crimson, when Ethan lazily wandered into the village square. His stomach growled, not from hunger but from boredom, a familiar ache he had long ignored. He leaned against the fountain, yawning, as villagers bustled around it with baskets of bread, buckets of water, and carts of goods. Everyone seemed to have a purpose. Everyone except him. Just then, an old man appeared, slowly making his way with a wooden cane. His robe was simple but clean, and his eyes carried the calm strength of someone who had seen the world's storms and survived them. This was Master Orion, the wise man of the village. Though respected, he was not feared. His presence brought comfort, like a lantern glowing on a dark night. Master Orion paused at the fountain and glanced at Ethan. "Why do you sit idle while the day still breathes?" His voice was gentle but firm, like a breeze that could carry both warmth and warning. Ethan shrugged, lazily kicking at a pebble. "What's the hurry? There's always tomorrow. Work will still be there, and I'll deal with it later." The old man's eyes narrowed slightly. "Tomorrow?" he echoed, as though testing the word on his tongue. "Tell me, boy, can you show me tomorrow?" Ethan chuckled, thinking it was a joke. "Of course not. Tomorrow hasn't come yet." "Exactly," said Master Orion, leaning closer. "Yet you treat it as if it is a treasure stored safely in your pocket, always waiting for you. Do you not see the danger in that thinking?" Ethan frowned. "Danger? It's just time. There's plenty of it." The wise man tapped his cane against the stone floor. Clack, clack, clack. Each sound echoed like a heartbeat. Every wasted moment is a coin tossed into a fire. You will never see it again. You are poorer with every tick of the clock, yet you act as though the chest is overflowing. For the first time, Ethan felt a spark of discomfort. His usual excuses, "I'll start tomorrow, I'm too tired. It doesn't matter," sounded weak under the weight of the old man's words. Still, he tried to defend himself. "But what difference does one day make?" Ethan muttered, "It's just a single grain of sand in the desert time." Master Orion's gaze grew sharp, like lightning hidden behind clouds. "One day makes all the difference. A grain of sand may seem small, but take one away each morning, and soon the desert itself will vanish. Time is not endless. Boy, it is the shortest thread you'll ever hold." The air between them grew heavy. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, but Master Orion wasn't finished. "Come tomorrow morning," the wise man said, "to the edge of the river at dawn. If you dare know the true value of time, meet me there. If not, stay as you are. But remember this, the river waits for no one." Before Ethan could reply, the old man turned and walked away, his cane tapping like a metronome marking the seconds. Ethan stared after him, torn between curiosity and laziness. Something in Orion's voice had pierced deeper than he wanted to admit. That night, as Ethan lay on his straw bed, he found himself unable to sleep. The words replayed in his head. "Can you show me tomorrow? The river waits for no one." And for the first time in his young life, the boy wondered if perhaps he was running out of tomorrows. Sparkle's grammar and vocabulary spotlight. Notice how Master Orion asks, "Can you show me tomorrow?" This is a rhetorical question. A question asked not to get an answer, but to make someone think. We also see the idiom, "The river waits for no one," which symbolizes how time flows endlessly, regardless of whether we use it wisely or not. Now let's practice together. 1. Why did Master Orion challenge Ethan's idea of tomorrow? 2. What does the phrase, "a grain of sand in the desert of time," mean in the story? 3. Can you retell this part of the story in your own words, using simple English? Part 3. The River Time. The first rays of dawn stretched across the horizon, painting the river gold. Mist curled lazily over the water's surface, but the air already hummed with quiet urgency, as though nature itself was whispering secrets too important to ignore. Ethan, usually asleep at this hour, trudged to the riverbank, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He almost turned back. The bed had been so warm, the pillow so soft. But Master Orion's words had gnawed at him all night. The river waits for no one. That phrase had pressed itself into his chest, until even laziness could not silence it. At the river, the old man was already waiting. He stood tall despite his years, his cane resting on the ground, his gaze locked on the current. Without turning, he said, "You came. That is the first step." Ethan shuffled his feet. "I almost didn't." Orion's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Almost doesn't build bridges. Almost doesn't change lives. You are here, and that is what matters now." The boy stared at the rushing water. "It's just a river." "No," Orion said firmly. "This river is time itself." He gestured to the flow. "Look closely. Each drop is a moment. See how it moves? Never stopping, never slowing, never turning back. You may play, laugh, or sleep while it passes, but it will pass just the same. You cannot hold it. You cannot call it back." Ethan squatted by the edge and dipped his hand in. The water slipped through his fingers, impossible to keep. "It's gone," he whispered. "Exactly," said Orion. "Just like yesterday. Just like every wasted hour of your life." The boy felt a pang in his chest. He remembered afternoons lost in naps, mornings wasted staring at the ceiling, evenings spent in idle chatter. Time had always felt like an ocean, endless, abundant. Now, watching the river, he realized it was more like a thin rope, unraveling strand by strand. Orion stepped closer. "Do you know why laziness is so dangerous, boy? Because it tricks you. It convinces you that tomorrow is guaranteed. But tomorrow is only a shadow, never promised. All you truly have is this." He tapped his cane against the earth. "This single heartbeat, this single breath, this single moment. And once it flows past, it belongs to eternity, not to you." Ethan shivered. "But what can I do? I'm just one boy. One day seems so small compared to a whole life." The old man's eyes gleamed. "And yet, a life is nothing but a collection of days. A wall is nothing but a collection of bricks. Do you see? Waste one day, and you weaken the wall of your life. Protect one day, and you make it stronger." The boy swallowed hard. For the first time, he saw time not as something endless, but as something fragile, slipping away like the water between his hands. Orion leaned in and whispered, "Choose, Ethan. You can drift like a leaf on the river, carried wherever laziness takes you, or you can swim, strong and steady, shaping where you go. Which will it be?" The boy looked at the river again, his reflection rippling. For the first time, the lazy comfort of tomorrow felt dangerous, like stepping onto thin ice. A strange fire stirred in his chest, faint but real. He lifted his chin and said, "I want to swim." Orion's smile widened. "Good. Then today we begin." Sparkle's grammar and vocabulary spotlight. Notice how Orion contrasts almost doesn't build bridges. This teaches us about contrast structure using repetition. It emphasizes how almost means nothing if there's no real action. The phrase, "a life is nothing but a collection of days," is an example of metaphor, where life is compared to something simple, so we can understand its value more deeply. Now try practicing. 1. What does the river symbolize in this story? 2. Why is tomorrow described as only a shadow? 3. Can you explain the difference between drifting like a leaf and swimming strong? In your own words? Part 4, the first test. The morning stretched into full sunlight, and the river sparkled as if applauding Ethan's choice. Master Orion, however, did not applaud. He simply lifted his cane and pointed toward the far end of the riverbank. "Go," he commanded. Ethan blinked. "Go where?" "To that tree," Orion replied. A tall oak stood in the distance, its roots clutching the soil, its branches heavy with green leaves. "But you must arrive before the sun climbs one hand span higher in the sky." Ethan squinted at the horizon. "That's hardly any time at all." The old man's eyes were sharp. "Exactly. Time is never as much as you think. Run." For a moment, Ethan hesitated. His body wanted to complain, to stretch, to yawn, to delay. But something inside remembered the river's current, flowing whether he moved or not. He sprinted. The ground was uneven, the air heavy with dew. His legs burned quickly. His chest ached. Halfway there, he thought of slowing down, but then Orion's voice echoed in his mind. Almost doesn't build bridges. He forced himself forward, reaching the tree just as the sun's light edged upward. Breathless, he collapsed against the trunk. Moments later, Orion appeared, not walking, not hurrying, yet somehow already there. Ethan gasped, "How did you?" The old man raised a hand. "It doesn't matter. What matters is what you felt. Tell me, what did you learn?" The boy wiped sweat from his brow. That even a short task feels long if you wait too long to begin. Orion's eyes softened with approval. "Yes, procrastination stretches a road in your mind until it feels endless. But action shortens every journey." The wise man bent, drawing a line in the dirt with his cane. On one side he wrote waste, and on the other, use. "This is a line you walk every day, Ethan. Every breath you take falls on one side or the other. There is no middle ground. The time you wasted yesterday is gone forever. The time you use today is the foundation of your tomorrow. Which side will you stand on?" Ethan stared at the words, his heart pounding harder than it had during his run. Waste and use. 2 choices, 2 doors, and he alone held the key. Orion stood tall again. "Tomorrow, return to me before sunrise. If you are late, I will not wait." The boy's throat tightened. He wanted to protest, to ask for more time, but the river's image flashed in his mind, slipping always forward. He nodded. That night, for the first time, Ethan did not waste the hours. He laid out his clothes, filled a jug with water, and even set aside bread for the morning. He sat on his bed but did not drift into laziness. Instead, he whispered to himself, "Every moment is a door, some open only ones." And as sleep finally took him, his dreams carried not the fog of wasted hours but the fire of possibility. Sparkles grammar and vocabulary spotlight. The sentence procrastination stretches the road in your mind until it feels endless, uses personification. It gives procrastination the power to stretch a road. This makes the abstract idea more vivid. The words waste and use are examples of binary opposition, a storytelling technique that simplifies choices into 2 clear paths. Now practice. 1, why did Master Orion make Ethan run to the oak tree? 2, what does every moment is a door mean in this story? 3, can you retell the lesson of this part in your own words, using simple English? Part 5, the wait of an hour. The next morning, the sky was still dark when Ethan opened his eyes. For the first time, he woke before his mother's call, before the rooster's crow. His body protested, aching for more sleep, but his mind remembered the river and the oak tree. He rose. By the time he reached the riverbank, Master Orion was already there, standing as still as the stones. His cane pointed at the horizon. "Good," the old man said without turning. "You have defeated the first enemy, the bed." Ethan chuckled nervously. "The bed?" "Yes," Orion replied. "The bed is a throne of laziness. Conquer it each morning, and you in the day before it begins." He handed Ethan a small hourglass, its golden sand glimmering faintly in the dawnlight. "This," Orion explained, "is your teacher today. Inside it lives 1 hour. Your task is simple. Use it." Ethan frowned. "Use it? How?" "That," said Orion, "is for you to decide. But when the last grain falls, you will tell me what you gained or what you lost." The boy stared at the hourglass. At first, he thought of resting again, letting the sand flow freely while he did nothing. But the river's lesson burned in his memory. He looked around. The field nearby needed clearing. His mother had asked him many times to help, but he had always delayed. So he picked up a rake and began. At first, his body groaned. The grass clung stubbornly to the earth, and sweat pricked his brow. But with every pull, the field grew cleaner, the pile taller. The hourglass trickled steadily, grains of time vanishing. When the last grain fell, Ethan dropped the rake and panted, his arms trembling. He turned to Orion, who had watched silently from a distance. "Well?" asked the old man. Ethan looked at the cleared patch of land. For the first time, He felt a strange pride warming his chest. I did something real, and it was only 1 hour. Orion's eyes shone. Do you see now? An hour is not small. An hour can build, heal, create, transform, but only if you use it. Waste it and it becomes smoke. Use it, and it becomes a brick in the house of your future. Ethan's mind raced. He thought of the hours he spent lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, chasing daydreams that led nowhere. Dozens of hours, no, hundreds, slipped through his fingers like water. What might he have built by now, if he had used them? The boy clenched his fists. I don't want to waste another hour. Orion placed a hand on his shoulder. Good. Then you must learn discipline. For time is a wild horse. Without discipline, it drags you through the mud. With discipline, it carries you to greatness. Ethan swallowed hard. The hourglass in his hands suddenly felt heavy, not from sand, but from responsibility. As the sun rose higher, painting the sky in brilliant gold, Ethan whispered a promise to himself. From today, I will treat every hour as a gift. Sparkle's grammar and vocabulary spotlight. Notice how Orion calls the bed the throne of laziness. This is a metaphor, comparing the bed to a king's throne, where laziness rules over us. The phrase, time is a wild horse, is another metaphor, showing how time can either run wild or be guided by discipline. Practice time. 1, why did Master Orion give Ethan the hourglass? 2, what did Ethan discover after working for just 1 hour? 3, in your own words, explain what the metaphor, time is a wild horse, means. Part 6, the trap of distraction. The following day, Orion greeted Ethan with neither hourglass nor task. Instead, he led him into the heart of the village. Stalls overflowed with goods, ripe fruits, glistening fabrics, shiny trinkets that caught the eye like sparks. Children laughed and chased one another. Dogs barked. Vendors shouted their offers. Coins clinked in hurried hands. Today, Orion said, his voice calm amid the noise, your test is here. Ethan tilted his head. What must I do? The old man placed a folded parchment in his hand. Inside is a list. Your task is to purchase 3 simple items before the sun passes from here. He pointed at a spot in the sky. To here. His finger traced a short arc barely an hour. That's easy, Ethan thought. Just 3 things. He unfolded the parchment and saw the words, bread, ink, rope. He hurried into the crowd, confidence lifting his steps. But soon, the sounds and colors of the market pulled at his attention. A flute player struck a tune that danced like fire through the air. Ethan slowed to listen. Then he spotted a booth selling glass marbles, each shimmering like captured stars. He picked one up, turning it in the light. Beautiful, he thought. A voice broke his trance. Ethan! Orion's cane tapped sharply against the cobblestone. Do you know what time it is? The boy's stomach twisted. He had no bread, no ink, no rope, only a marble gleaming in his palm. He shoved it back to the vendor and dashed off, scrambling to find the items. But the hour was slipping like sand through his fingers. By the time he returned, sweaty and frantic, the sun had already reached the second point in the sky. He handed Orion the bread, the ink, and the rope, but his shoulders sagged. I failed. The old man's eyes were stern but not unkind. Yes, and do you know why? Ethan's gaze dropped to the ground. I got distracted. Distraction, Orion said, is the thief that steals more lives than hunger or sickness. It whispers, just a moment, just one more glance, just one more song. But each just one more is a grain of sand lost forever. He tapped the boy's chest with his cane. You were not defeated by difficulty. You were defeated by glitter. The word stung. Ethan thought of all the times he had promised himself, I'll start after this game, after this nap, after this one more story. Hours had dissolved into nothing, leaving only regret. He whispered, so even small distractions, they destroy time? Orion nodded gravely. Yes, great lives are not ruined in one day, but in countless tiny stolen moments. A man does not fall asleep for 20 years. He falls asleep for 1 minute, again and again. Ethan's chest burned with shame. He clenched his fists. Then teach me how to fight distraction. A faint smile curved the old man's lips. You fight it by choosing. Every time it calls, you must ask, does this lead me to my purpose or away from it? And if it leads away, you cut it off like a chain that holds you down. Ethan raised his eyes to the sky. The market noise still buzzed around him, but it no longer felt sweet. It felt dangerous, like a net waiting to tighten. And for the first time, the boy understood that laziness was not just sleep. It was every moment stolen by things that didn't matter. Sparkle's grammar and vocabulary spotlight. The phrase distraction is a thief that steals more lives than hunger or sickness is an example of personification. Distraction is described as a thief, giving it power and danger. The idiom, cut off like a chain that holds you down, shows that distractions can be like weights stopping us from moving forward. Practice questions. 1. Why did Ethan fail the market test? 2. What lesson did Master Orion want Ethan to learn about distraction? 3. In your own words, explain the meaning of you were not defeated by difficulty, you were defeated by glitter. Part 7. The choice of comfort. Several weeks passed. Ethan woke earlier each day, worked harder, and resisted the market's temptations. His back grew stronger, his eyes sharper, and his heart lighter. Yet Master Orion was not finished with him. One evening, as the sun bled crimson across the sky, Orion led Ethan to a crossroads outside the village. 2 paths stretched ahead, one narrow and steep, climbing toward the hills, the other wide and smooth, leading into a valley where firelight flickered from taverns and laughter floated on the wind. Orion planted his cane firmly in the dirt. Tonight, he said, you will choose the path of effort or the path of ease. Ethan frowned. But why now? Haven't I already proven myself? The old man's gaze was steady. Discipline is not proven in comfort. It is proven when comfort calls your name. Ethan looked at the valley. He could almost hear the songs, smell the roasted meat, feel the softness of pillows waiting in inns. His weary muscles begged for it. Just one night of rest. A voice in his head whispered, "You've earned it." Then he looked at the hill. It was dark, jagged, and silent. The path twisted with rocks and shadows. His legs trembled at the thought. Orion's voice cut through his hesitation. Remember this. Comfort is sweet poison. Take too much, and it steals your future. Hardship is bitter medicine. Swallow it, and it makes you strong. Ethan's heart pounded. Every part of him wanted the valley, but another part, smaller, quieter, remembered the river, the oak tree, the hourglass, the market. He saw again the water slipping through his hands. Slowly, he lifted his chin. I'll take the hill. Orion's lips curved in the faintest smile. Then climb. The ascent was brutal. Stones cut into his soles. Branches clawed his arms. The darkness pressed close. Every step demanded his will. Many times he nearly turned back, imagining the warmth of the valley. But he clenched his teeth and whispered, "Every step is a brick. Every brick builds my future." At last, near midnight, he reached the crest. His body was torn with exhaustion, but when he looked back, he saw the valley glowing below, full of noise and fire, and realized it looked small now, almost pitiful. The hill, though hard, had carried him higher. Orion appeared beside him, his eyes shining like twin lanterns. "You have chosen well. Remember, Ethan, life will always offer valleys of comfort, but only the hills will lift you closer to the stars." Ethan collapsed to the ground, breathless but proud. He had not chosen what was easy. He had chosen what mattered. And in that choice, he felt something stronger than comfort. He felt freedom. Sparkle's grammar and vocabulary spotlight. The line, "comfort is sweet poison," is a metaphor, teaching us that something pleasant can also destroy us if taken too often. Likewise, hardship is bitter medicine is another metaphor showing how struggles, though painful, make us grow stronger. The phrase, "life will always offer valleys of comfort, but only the hills will lift you closer to stars," is an example of contrast imagery, comparing two paths in life. Practice time. 1. What are the two paths at the crossroads represent? 2. Why did Orion call comfort sweet poison? 3. In your own words, explain why Ethan chose a hill. Part 8. The final hour. The dawn after his climb was quiet. The air was crisp. carrying the scent of pine and earth, as Ethan stood atop the hill, his body aching but his spirit awake. Master Orion handed him the golden hourglass once more. This time, however, something was different. The top bulb held only a single grain of sand, trembling at the edge. Ethan frowned. Why is there only one? Orion's gaze pierced deep into him. Because this, boy, is the truth of life. Each of us has only one grain left, and we never know when it will fall. Some think they hold mountains of sand. But in reality, all that remains may be just one. What will you do with yours? Ethan stared at the hourglass. His heart raced. The single grain seemed heavier than all the sand in the world. He thought of his wasted years, his excuses, his naps, his distractions. He thought of how easily he had traded days for nothing. A lump rose his throat. Finally, he whispered, "I will not waste it." The old man nodded. "Then tell me, what is the value of time?" Ethan lifted his head, his voice steady though his eyes burned. "Time is life. To waste it is to die before death. To use it is to live forever in what we build." A smile spread across Orion's face. For the first time, the sternness faded, replaced by warmth. "Well spoken. You have learned." He took the hourglass and let the single grain fall. It glowed briefly, then vanished into the glass below. Ethan gasped, but Orion laid a hand on his shoulder. "Do not fear," the wise man said. "The lesson is not that time will end. It surely will. The lesson is that you must live so fully in each moment that when the last grain falls, you will have no regret." Ethan's chest swelled. He felt no fear now, only determination. He looked at the rising sun, at the wide horizon beyond the hill, and saw not endless tomorrows, but countless days waiting to be used. From that day forward, Ethan worked with purpose. He helped his family, studied with focus, trained his body, sharpened his mind, and inspired others in the village. People marveled at the change in the once lazy boy. They asked him what had happened, and he would smile and say only, "I met a man who taught me the value of 1 hour." Years later, when Ethan himself grew old, children would gather around him and ask, "Grandfather, what is the greatest treasure in the world?" And with a gentle smile, he would answer, "Time. Guard it as you would guard your life, for it is your life." And so, the boy who once wasted every moment became the man who taught generations that every moment counts. Sparkle's grammar and vocabulary spotlight. The phrase, "time is life," to waste is to die before death, is a powerful metaphor showing that wasting time means losing pieces of life itself. The hourglass with a single grain of sand is a symbol of mortality, teaching us that no one knows how much time is left. The word treasure is used figuratively here, not for gold, but to show that time is the most valuable possession we can ever hold. Practice time. 1. What lesson did Ethan finally learn from a single grain of sand? 2. Why did he say, "Time is life"? 3. Can you retell the ending in your own words, imagining you are Ethan teaching children?